Captain Taman stood on the bridge of his ship, watching two alien fleets face each other in the darkness of space. The Nethians had brought 30 crystal ships that looked like giant diamonds. The Volari had 40 gas-filled vessels that glowed like purple clouds. Both sides had their weapons ready. For 3 weeks, these two species had been fighting over a small planet. The Nethians wanted to mine its rare crystals. The Volari needed its thick atmosphere for their young to grow. Many ships had already been destroyed. Many lives had been lost. That was why the Galactic Confederation had called Earth. "Captain, both fleets are moving into attack position," said young Mai from her station. She was the best cultural expert in the human fleet. She knew how to talk to any alien species. "The Nethian commander is getting angry. He says the Volari are thieves." "And what did the Volari say?" asked Taman. Jae-sung looked up from his science station. As a xenobiologist, he understood how different alien minds worked. "The Volari leader calls the Nethians murderers. She says they will poison the planet with their mining." Taman nodded slowly. This was always how it started. Fear and anger made aliens stop listening to each other. That was when humans stepped in. "Open a channel to both fleets," he ordered. The main screen split in two. On the left appeared Commander Zethix, the Nethian leader. His crystal body reflected light in sharp, angry patterns. On the right was Wing Prime Valora, the Volari commander. Her gas-form body swirled with dark purple clouds. "Honored leaders," said Taman in his calm voice. "I am Captain Taman of the Earthship Harmony. We have come to help find peace, and there can be no peace with crystal killers." Valora's voice was like wind through pipes. "They will destroy the breeding grounds." "The gas swimmers lie." Zethix's voice rang like breaking glass. "They want to keep all resources for themselves." Taman had heard this before. Every alien species thought their needs were more important. They could not understand that others might have different but equally valid reasons for wanting the same thing. "I ask both of you to give me 3 days," said Taman. "Let my team study this planet. Maybe we can find a solution that helps everyone." Both alien leaders looked doubtful, but the Galactic Confederation had sent the humans. Earth had solved 17 major conflicts in the past 5 years. No other species had this success rate. 3 days, agreed Zethix finally. "No more," said Valora. The channels closed. Taman turned to his crew. "Young Mi, I want you to talk to the cultural attachés from both fleets. Learn everything about their traditions and needs. Jae-sung, take a team down to the planet. Find out exactly what resources are there." "What about you, Captain?" asked young Mai. "I'm going to do what humans do best," said Taman. "I'm going to listen." For the next 2 days, Taman met with leaders from both sides. He did not argue. He did not judge. He simply listened as they explained their fears and hopes. The Nethians were a dying race. Their home crystal gardens were failing. Without new crystal deposits, their species would fade away within 50 years. They had already lost 3 colony worlds to this slow death. The Volari faced a different crisis. Their young needed special atmospheric conditions to develop properly. Climate change on their homeworld meant fewer and fewer successful births each year. This planet could save an entire generation of Volari children. On the 3rd day, Jae-sung returned with surprising news. "Captain, this planet is amazing," he said, his eyes bright with discovery. "The crystal deposits are in the northern continent. But the atmospheric conditions the Volari need are strongest in the southern hemisphere. The two resources don't overlap at all." Young Mai added her own findings. "I learned something interesting about Nethian culture. They consider gas-form life to be sacred. They believe it represents the pure energy that first created their crystals, and the Volari have legends about crystal beings who helped their ancestors learn to fly between stars." Taman smiled. This was the moment he had been waiting for. He called both fleets together for a final meeting. This time, all the ships gathered in a great circle around the disputed planet. Representatives from both sides came aboard the Harmony. "Honored friends," Taman began, "you have both been fighting for the same thing. You want to save your children. You want your species to have a future. These are not different goals. They are the same goal." He gestured to the planet rotating slowly below them. "This world is large enough for both of you. The crystals are in the north. The atmospheric breeding grounds you need are in the south. You can share this planet and both achieve what you came here to find. But how can we trust them?" asked Zethix. "How do we know they will not interfere with our mining?" added Valora. "Because," said Taman, "you will work together. Nethian crystals can be tuned to create the exact atmospheric conditions Valari young need to thrive. And Valari atmospheric control can protect crystal gardens from harmful weather. You need each other. Young Mai stepped forward. Captain Taemin speaks truth. Your legends say that crystal beings in gas forms were once partners in ancient times. Perhaps it is time to remember that partnership. Jae-sung showed them his scientific readings. The planet's ecosystem will actually benefit from both your presences. The Nethian crystals will stabilize the southern atmosphere. The Valari gas forms will prevent harmful radiation from reaching the northern crystal fields. For a long moment, both alien leaders were silent. They looked at each other across the conference table. Slowly, Zethix extended one crystal appendage. Even more slowly, Valora reached out with a tendril of gas form energy. When they touched, both began to glow softly. Perhaps, said Zethix, we have been fighting the wrong enemy. Perhaps, agreed Valora. Our real enemy has always been fear. 3 months later, the planet had its first joint Nethian-Valari colony. Children from both species played together in specially designed atmospheric gardens. Nethian crystals sang in harmony with Valari wind songs. The Galactic Confederation praised Earth once again. Commander Dalthex personally thanked Captain Taemin. Your species has a gift, he said. You see connections where others see only conflict. You find hope where others find only reasons to fight. Taemin accepted the praise gracefully, but he often wondered what would happen if someone ever pushed humanity too far. Their strength came from their choice to seek peace. But what if peace was not enough? He pushed such dark thoughts away. Humanity would always choose the path of understanding. It was who they were. Dr. Hyunwoo walked through the gardens of New Eden Station with his daughter Yoonji. The research facility orbited a beautiful green planet where human families had built their newest home. Through the large windows they could see fields of golden grain stretching to the horizon below. Father, look at these readings, said Yoonji, holding up her data pad. At 23, she had already become one of the galaxy's best xenobotanists. The hybrid wheat is growing 30% faster than we expected. If we can replicate this across all human colonies, we could feed billions. Hyunwoo smiled proudly. His daughter had inherited his love of growing things, but her vision was much bigger than his. Where he saw successful crops, she saw the end of hunger across the stars. The Confederation Council will be very interested, he said.
Ambassador Wei Jin arrives tomorrow to see our progress. New Eden had become humanity's showcase to the galaxy.
Here, human families lived and worked together, turning empty space into thriving communities. Children learned alongside young aliens from a dozen different species. Scientists shared discoveries that benefited everyone. The station housed 3,000 people. Farmers, teachers, engineers, artists, and their families had all come here to build something beautiful. They believed they were creating a better future for all intelligent life. They had no idea they were being watched. War Prime Vextar of the Keth. Hegemony studied the tactical displays aboard his flagship Dominator. The Keth were a warrior species from the outer rim of the galaxy. They had built their empire through conquest and fear. For them, strength came from the ability to destroy enemies. Humans, Vextar said to his war council. Soft creatures who play with dirt and talk about peace. The galaxy fears them only because they have not been properly tested. Sub-Commander Krex nodded agreement. The other species speak of human diplomacy as if it were a weapon. But we have seen their colonies. Children playing in gardens. Scientists growing food. Where are their warriors? Where are their weapons? Exactly, said Vextar. And now we will show the galaxy what happens to weaklings who pretend to be strong. We will broadcast our attack across all subspace networks. Every alien species will see that humans bleed just like any other prey. The Keth fleet had been moving toward human space for weeks. 50 warships armed with weapons designed to kill civilians as efficiently as soldiers. They had done this before to smaller species. The galaxy always protested afterward, but they never acted. Fear kept them quiet. War Prime, said his communications officer. We are receiving standard greeting signals from the human station. They are asking about our intentions. Vextar laughed, a sound like metal scraping stone. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we wish to learn about their farming techniques. On New Eden Station, Engineer Dong Hyun monitored the incoming ships from his control room. Something felt wrong. The Keth were known as raiders and slavers. They had never shown interest in agriculture before. Dr. Hyunwoo, he called over the comm system. We have 50 Keith ships approaching. They say they want to see our research, but I don't trust them. Yunwu joined him in the control room, bringing Yunji with him. They watched the alien ships take positions around their station. The vessels were dark and angular, covered in weapon ports. "Those don't look like science ships," said Yunji quietly. "No," agreed her father. "They don't." Donghyun tried calling Earth Fleet Command, but subspace interference was blocking his transmissions. The Keth ships were jamming all communications. "Father," whispered Yunji, "I'm scared." Before Hyunwoo could answer, the first Keth ship opened fire. The attack came without warning or mercy. Energy beams designed to cause maximum pain tore through the station's outer hull. But the Keth were not trying to destroy New Eden quickly. They wanted to make it last. Keth soldiers teleported aboard the station in full battle armor. They moved through the corridors like predators, hunting families who had nowhere to run. In the gardens where children had played moments before, alien warriors began their terrible work. Donghyun sealed the control room and activated the emergency broadcast system. Even through the jamming, he might be able to send one message to Earth. "This is New Eden Station." He spoke into his microphone as explosions rocked the facility around him. "We are under attack by Keth forces. They are killing everyone. Men, women, children. No one is being spared." Through the security monitors, they watched the Keth move methodically through the station. These were not quick deaths. The aliens wanted the victims to suffer. They wanted their fear to be recorded and broadcast. "The families in Section 7 are trapped," reported Eunji, her voice shaking as she watched the screens. "The Keth are herding them toward the main plaza." "Why?" asked Hyunwoo. "Why are they doing this?" His question was answered when War Prime Vextar's image appeared on every screen in the station. The Keth leader stood in the plaza where human families were now being forced to kneel. "People of the galaxy," Vextar announced, "today you will see the truth about humanity. You will see how the species you call peacekeepers dies when faced with real strength. Let this be a lesson to all who think kindness is power." The broadcast was going out across subspace to every inhabited world. Billions of beings were watching as the Keth demonstrated their version of strength. Donghyun worked frantically at his console. The main transmitter was damaged, but he might be able to send one last message to Earth. Just one. "Tell Earth," he spoke into his microphone as Keth soldiers broke down the control room door. "Tell them. They came for the children first." The transmission cut to static. Across the galaxy, alien leaders watched in horror as New Eden Station went dark. 3,000 human lives had been extinguished in less than 2 hours. The Keth had made their point with brutal efficiency. Some species called for justice. Others whispered that perhaps the Keth were right. Perhaps humanity really was weak. Perhaps their reputation for diplomacy was just pretty words hiding helpless prey. On Earth, Admiral So-jin received the final transmission from New Eden. She listened to Engineer Donghyun's last words 3 times before walking to her office safe. Inside were sealed orders she had hoped never to open. The file was labeled Phoenix Protocol in case of genocide. President Hae-won addressed the nation 6 hours later. She stood at the podium with tears streaming down her face as she read the names of every person who had died at New Eden. All 3,000 names. It took her 2 hours. "My fellow humans," she said when the list was complete, "for 50 years we have chosen the path of peace. We have believed that understanding could solve any conflict. We have been wrong." Her voice changed as she spoke the next words. Something cold and final entered her tone. "Today the galaxy will learn what humanity becomes when you murder our children." The Keth hegemony celebrated their victory for exactly 18 hours. Then Earth's answer began to arrive. General Wu Jin had never expected to use the war plans hidden in Earth's deepest military vaults. For decades, these documents had gathered dust while humanity focused on diplomacy and peace. Now he spread them across his desk with steady hands. The plans were terrifying in their completeness. "Dr. Moon Young," he said to the woman entering his office, "how quickly can we begin production?" Dr. Moon Young had spent 20 years designing weapons that she hoped would never be built. Kinetic bombardment platforms that could crack continents, quantum disruption fields that could tear apart entire fleets, and at the center of it all, the Phoenix Protocol. "The factories can be converted in 72 hours, she said quietly. "The first kinetic platforms will be ready in 1 week. The quantum disruptors need 2 weeks. The Phoenix weapon," she paused. "Are we really going to build that?" "We are going to build everything," said General Wu Jin. The galaxy thinks we are weak because we choose peace. They need to understand that choice is not the same as inability. Across Earth's solar system, peaceful research stations began their transformation. The orbital facility where Dr. Moon Young had studied theoretical physics became a weapons factory. The asteroid mining operations started building kinetic bombardment platforms. Even the Mars agricultural domes were converted to produce military supplies. Captain Taman stood in the retrofit bay, watching workers install new weapons on his ship Harmony. The vessel that had once been a symbol of human diplomacy was becoming something else entirely. Weapons that violated every galactic treaty were being mounted along its hull. "Captain," said Young Mi, approaching with a datapad, "I've been analyzing Keth military structure. Their society is built around the concept of strength through cruelty. They respect only superior force." "Then we will give them superior force," said Taimin. His voice had changed since New Eden. The warm diplomat was gone, replaced by something cold and precise. Jae Sung joined them, his scientific curiosity now focused on deadlier subjects. "I've been studying Keth biology. Their nervous systems are particularly sensitive to quantum disruption. A properly tuned field could cause system-wide paralysis." "Good," said Taemin. "Add that to our targeting protocols." Across human space, the transformation continued. Teachers put down their books and picked up weapons training manuals. Farmers left their fields to learn combat tactics. Artists designed new ship configurations optimized for destruction rather than beauty. But the most dramatic change was in humanity's leaders. President Hae-won met with the cabinet in Earth's war room. Maps of the galaxy covered every wall, showing shipping lanes, military positions, and resource centers. Red markers indicated Keth territory. Yellow markers showed species that had remained silent during the New Eden massacre. "The Keth hegemony has 47 star systems," reported Defense Secretary Jin A. "Their main fleet is concentrated around their homeworld. Secondary forces guard the outer colonies." "What about the other species?" asked President Hae-won. "Who condemned the attack?" Foreign Minister Boram consulted his notes. 17 species issued formal statements of support for humanity. 23 remained silent. The Galactic Confederation called for measured response and careful consideration. "Measured response," repeated President Hae-won slowly. "They want us to be careful while our children's killers celebrate their victory." She stood and walked to the central display showing the entire galaxy. "The Keth will be destroyed, completely, but that is not enough. The galaxy needs to understand what silence costs when genocide happens." Admiral Sojin had taken command of the largest military fleet in human history. Ships that had been exploring distant stars were recalled and equipped for war. Vessels that had been carrying trade goods and scientific equipment were loaded with weapons that most aliens had never imagined. "Ma'am," said Commander Danby, "we're receiving communications from the Galactic Confederation. They want to mediate a peaceful solution with the Keth." Admiral Sojin did not look up from her tactical displays. "Tell them the time for mediation ended when the first human child died screaming. Tell them humanity is no longer interested in their version of peace." The transformation was not just military, it was psychological. For 50 years, humans had defined themselves as the species that chose understanding over violence. They had been proud of their ability to find peaceful solutions. They had believed that their soft approach made them morally superior to the warrior races. New Eden had shattered that identity. "Sir," said Communications Officer Yunho to Captain Taemin, "we're receiving messages from alien governments. They're asking what our intentions are." "Our intentions?" Captain Taemin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Our intentions are exactly what they should have expected when they chose to do nothing while our people were murdered." In the depths of Earth's military research facilities, Dr. Moon Young made final adjustments to the Phoenix Protocol. The weapon was elegant in its simplicity and terrible in its power. It did not destroy planets by blowing them apart. Instead, it convinced the atoms themselves to forget how to hold together. "Dr. Moon Young," asked her assistant, Subin, "will we really use this?" "My dear," said Dr. Moon Young as she sealed the weapon's programming, "we are going to use everything." The galaxy began to notice changes in human behavior. Diplomatic missions were recalled without explanation. Trade ships stopped carrying luxury goods and started moving military supplies. Human colonies activated defense systems that no one knew they possessed. Commander Dalthex of the Galactic Confederation tried repeatedly to contact Earth's government. His calls went unanswered. When he finally reached a human official, the conversation was brief and chilling. "Counselor Park Hye," said Dalthex, "the Confederation is concerned about human military movements. We want to help find a peaceful solution." "The peaceful solution was to prevent the massacre at New Eden," replied Counselor Park Hye. "You chose not to pursue that option. Now you will live with our solution instead. But surely we can negotiate." "Negotiation requires two parties willing to talk," said Park Hye. "One of those parties died with our children. The other party will join them soon." The channel closed. 3 weeks after New Eden, Admiral Sojin's fleet was ready. 147 ships equipped with weapons that existed at the edge of theoretical possibility. Crews trained not just for victory but for complete annihilation. Captain Taman stood on the Bridge of Harmony as the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. Around him, officers who had once been diplomats and scientists prepared for humanity's first act of total war. "All ships report." "Ready," announced Commander Youngmi. "Quantum disruptors are charged," reported Jae-sung, Phoenix. "Protocol is armed and ready," added Dr. Moon Young. From the weapons bay, Captain Taman looked out at the stars where somewhere the Keth hegemony waited. They had wanted to test humanity's strength. They had wanted to see what happened when someone pushed the peaceful species too far. "Very well," said Captain Taman. "Let us show them what humanity becomes when you murder our children." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity's fury toward an empire that had made the greatest mistake in galactic history. They had awakened something that the universe had never seen before. War Prime Vextar expected the humans to come. What he did not expect was how they came. The Keth homeworld's defense systems detected the approaching human fleet while it was still 3 light years away. Vextar had time to prepare his forces, time to position his ships, time to set up the kind of honorable battle that warriors craved. But Captain Taman was no longer interested in honor. "Range to target?" he asked from the Bridge of Harmony. 2.7 light years, sir," replied Jae-sung. "Well outside their detection range for our quantum disruptors." "Fire." The weapons that Dr. Moon Young had designed did not behave like normal space weapons. They did not travel through normal space at all. Instead, they reached through quantum dimensions and simply appeared where they were needed. Every Keth defense platform around their homeworld died in the same instant. Not destroyed by explosions or energy beams, but torn apart at the molecular level as quantum fields convinced their atoms to exist in different locations simultaneously. "By the void," whispered Sub-Commander Krex aboard the Keith flagship. "How did they do that? Our shields didn't even register an attack." War Prime Vextar stared at his tactical display as red symbols marked the death of 40 orbital defense stations. "Send word to the outer colonies. Tell them to prepare for—" His order was interrupted by Commander Youngmi's voice broadcasting on all Keth frequencies. "Attention, Keth hegemony. This is the Earth fleet. Your military forces are no longer relevant to this conversation. We are not here for your surrender. We are not here for your capitulation. We are here to deliver justice." The human fleet materialized out of hyperspace at the edge of the Keth home system. 147 ships arranged in perfect battle formation. But they did not advance toward the Keth fleet. They simply waited. "What are they doing?" demanded Vextar. "Why don't they attack?" His answer came in the form of another quantum disruption wave. This time, every Keth warship in the system found their weapons offline. Not damaged, not destroyed, but simply no longer capable of functioning. The quantum fields had convinced their targeting systems that enemy ships did not exist. Captain Taman opened a direct channel to War Prime Vextar. The Keth leader found himself staring at a human who looked nothing like the peaceful diplomats his intelligence reports had described. "War Prime Vextar," said Taman in a voice like ice. "I am Captain Taman of the Earthship Harmony. 3 weeks ago you broadcast the murder of 3,000 human civilians across the galaxy. You wanted to demonstrate Keth strength to the universe." Vexatar tried to project defiance, but something in the human's eyes made his words die in his throat. "Today," continued Taman, "the universe will see a different kind of demonstration. Today you will learn what strength actually means." The captain gestured to someone off-screen. "Dr. Moon Young, please show the War Prime our newest achievement in applied physics." On every screen throughout the Keth system, a new image appeared. It showed the human ship designated Phoenix 1, positioned near an asteroid that was roughly the size of a large city. Dr. Moon Young's voice provided calm, scientific narration. The Phoenix Protocol represents humanity's answer to the question of ultimate weapons, she explained. Traditional weapons destroy matter by overcoming molecular bonds. Phoenix works differently. It simply convinces matter that it would prefer to exist as energy. The asteroid began to glow, not from heat or fire, but from some deeper transformation. In less than 10 seconds, a mountain-sized chunk of rock and metal became a brief star, then became nothing at all. The process is completely clean, continued Dr. Moon Young. No radiation, no debris, no environmental contamination. The matter simply chooses to become light instead. Every Keth in the system understood what they were seeing. This was not a weapon designed to win battles. This was a weapon designed to erase civilizations. Your fleet is disabled, said Captain Taman to War Prime Vextar. Your defenses are offline. Your Empire's military capability has been neutralized. Under normal circumstances, this would be the moment where we discuss terms of surrender. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of 3,000 graves. But you did not simply attack our military. You did not target our ships or our soldiers. You came for our children. You murdered our families. You broadcast their deaths as entertainment. The tactical display on the Keith flagship showed Phoenix 1 moving into position directly above their homeworld. There are no terms, continued Taman. There is no surrender. There is only consequence. War Prime Vextar found his voice at last. You cannot destroy an entire world. The Galactic Confederation will never allow it. The Galactic Confederation, said Captain Taman, had their chance to prevent genocide. They chose to issue statements and call for measured responses instead. Now they will learn what measured responses actually accomplish. But before Phoenix 1 could fire, Admiral Sojin's voice interrupted the broadcast. Captain Taman, this is Admiral Sojin. Stand down the Phoenix Protocol. Admiral? Taman looked confused. The Keth homeworld has 8 billion inhabitants. They are all complicit in the murder of our people. Not all, Captain. My intelligence teams have identified 3 million Keth civilians who actively protested the New Eden attack. They will be evacuated before we proceed. War Prime Vextar felt a moment of hope. Perhaps the humans retained some mercy after all. Admiral Sojin crushed that hope with her next words. The protesters will be relocated to establish new Keth colonies under human protection. They will remember what their empire chose to become. As for the rest, she paused to let her words sink in. As for the rest, they will serve as an example to the galaxy. We are not monsters. We do not kill innocents. But we are very precise about who qualifies as innocent. The evacuation took 6 hours. Human ships used teleportation technology to remove every Keth who had opposed the massacre. The galaxy watched in fascination and growing terror as humanity demonstrated both mercy and ruthless efficiency. When the last protester had been safely relocated, Captain Taman gave the order, Phoenix 1, you are authorized to fire. The Keth homeworld did not explode. It did not break apart in chunks or burn in atmospheric fire. It simply began to glow with soft, beautiful light. For 30 seconds, an entire planet became a gentle star. Then the light faded, and where the Keth homeworld had been, there was only empty space. 5 billion Keth had died in those 30 seconds. Not from pain or fire, but from the simple fact that their atoms had chosen to become photons instead. The galaxy watched in absolute silence. But humanity was not finished. Special Forces Commander, Insu led surgical strikes across the entire Keth Empire. Every military installation, every weapons facility, every ship that had participated in the New Eden massacre was precisely eliminated. The attacks were so swift and thorough that most Keth colonies never knew they were under assault until their defenses simply ceased to exist. Within 48 hours, the Keth hegemony had been reduced from a major, galactic power to a handful of agricultural colonies under human protection. But the most chilling moment came when Senator Namgil began, broadcasting to the entire galaxy. People of the Confederation, he said, standing before the empty space where the Keth homeworld had been. Today you have witnessed the price of genocide, but you have also witnessed the price of silence. The display behind him showed a list of every species and government that had failed to condemn the New Eden massacre. Each of you will now receive a visit from Earth fleet vessels, not for destruction but for education. You will sign new treaties acknowledging that genocide is unacceptable. You will establish monitoring systems to prevent future atrocities. You will remember this day whenever you consider the cost of doing nothing. One by one, alien governments received those visits. One by one, they signed the new accords. No one dared to refuse. The memory of the Keth homeworld becoming light was too fresh, too terrifying. The galaxy learned a new truth that day. Peace was not weakness. It was a choice. And when that choice was no longer honored, the alternatives were far more terrible than anyone had imagined. Captain Taman returned to his ship and looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, alien civilizations were reconsidering their assumptions about humanity. They were learning what happened when you mistook kindness for helplessness. The lesson would not be forgotten. 6 months after the Keth homeworld became light, Commander Dalthex stood in the main assembly hall of the Galactic Confederation. The chamber looked the same as it always had, but everything else had changed. The representatives from 200 species sat in their traditional seats. The debates continued as they always had. Laws were proposed, voted on, and passed just like before. But now every decision carried the quiet weight of human approval. The motion to establish new mining rights in the Vega sector is approved, announced the speaker, pending review by the Human Oversight Committee. Dalthex watched Admiral Sojin nod from the human delegation's position. She had not spoken during the debate. She had not needed to. Everyone in the chamber understood that no law would be enforced without Earth's agreement. After the session ended, Dalthex approached the human admiral. They had known each other for years, but their relationship had changed dramatically since New Eden. "Admiral," he said carefully, "the Confederation appreciates humanity's guidance in maintaining galactic stability." Admiral Sojin looked at him with eyes that had seen a planet become light. "Commander Dalthex, you mistake efficiency for oppression. We are not ruling the galaxy. We are simply ensuring that the galaxy remembers what happened when it chose to ignore genocide." She gestured toward the chamber where alien representatives were already discussing how to implement humanity's latest suggestions about trade route, security. Every species here voted to accept our protection protocols. Every government signed the new anti-genocide treaties willingly. No one was forced to do anything. "Of course not," agreed Dalthex. He did not mention that the alternative to willing cooperation was too terrible to consider. The memory of the Keth homeworld ensured that every alien leader understood the consequences of refusing human requests. President Hei-Wan addressed the galaxy from her office on Earth. Behind her, through the large windows, construction crews were building the memorial wall. 500 meters tall and carved from New Eden crystal, it would bear the name of every human who had died in the massacre. "My fellow beings," she said to the cameras that carried her words to a billion worlds. 6 months ago, the galaxy learned what happens when evil goes unopposed. Today, I want to talk about what happens when good people choose to act. The display behind her showed images from across human space. Agricultural stations were being rebuilt with the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy. Research facilities continued their work on feeding the hungry and healing the sick, but now they operated under the protection of orbital weapons platforms. "Humanity has not changed," continued President Hei-Wan. "We still believe in peace. We still work for understanding between species. We still hope for a future where all beings can live in harmony." Her expression grew harder as she spoke the next words. "But we have learned that peace requires guardians. We have learned that some threats cannot be reasoned with. We have learned that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to ensure that evil understands the price of its choices." On the rebuilt New Eden station, Dr. Hyunwoo tended the memorial garden where his daughter Yunji had once studied alien plants. The station was larger now, housing 5,000 researchers and their families. The orbital defense platforms that surrounded it could destroy entire fleets, but the scientists still focused on growing food and sharing knowledge. The difference was in the children. Young humans still played in the gardens, but now they also learned about the Phoenix Protocol in their history classes. They studied the tactical decisions that had ended the Keth hegemony. They understood that their peaceful way of life existed because their parents had been willing to fight for it. "Dr. Hyunwoo," said his research partner. "Dr. Suman, The Galactic Agricultural Council wants to implement our new grain varieties on 47 worlds. They're calling it the New Eden Project. Hyunwoo smiled at the irony. His daughter's agricultural research, the work that had made New Eden a target, was now feeding billions across the galaxy. Her death had become a catalyst for exactly the kind of peaceful progress she had dreamed of. Yoonji would have liked that, he said quietly. Captain Taemin returned to diplomacy, but his role had evolved in ways he could never have imagined. When he arrived at the peace talks between the Rigelian Republic and the Centauri Alliance, both sides greeted him with a mixture of respect and barely concealed fear. "Captain," said Chancellor Thrix of the Rigelians, "we are honored by your presence." "Indeed," agreed Prime Consul Valdez of the Centaurians. "We hope humanity will help us find a mutually beneficial solution." The negotiations that followed were unlike any in galactic history. Both sides presented their positions clearly and honestly. Neither tried to hide information or pursue secret advantages. Both genuinely sought solutions that would benefit everyone involved, not because they had suddenly become more ethical, but because they knew what happened to civilizations that chose conflict over cooperation. "I am pleased to see such productive dialogue," said Captain Taemin when the talks concluded with a comprehensive trade agreement. "This is what the galaxy can accomplish when all parties choose to act in good faith." His words carried an unspoken reminder. Good faith was no longer optional. The galaxy had seen what humanity did to those who chose treachery and genocide instead. Judge Kitei presided over the War Crimes Tribunal on Luna Station. The few surviving Keth leaders who had participated in the New Eden massacre sat in specially designed containment fields. Their trial was broadcast across the galaxy as a reminder of justice's reach. "War Prime Vextar," said Judge Kitei, "you are charged with genocide, crimes against sapient life, and violation of the Galactic Convention on the Protection of Non-Combatants. How do you plead?" The former Keth leader had aged decades in the months since his empire's destruction. "I plead that we were warriors following our nature. We sought glory through conquest as our ancestors taught us." "And what did that nature cost you?" asked Judge Kitei. Vextar looked through the courtroom's windows at the space where his homeworld had once been. "Everything. The tribunal's verdicts were unanimous. Those responsible for planning and executing the New Eden massacre received sentences of permanent exile to a prison world under human supervision. They would live out their remaining years contemplating the price of their choices. But the real punishment was what had happened to their entire civilization. The Keth Empire that had taken 1,000 years to build had been erased in 48 hours. Their survivors lived now as refugees under human protection, rebuilding their culture without the warfare that had defined them. Dr. Moon Young continued her research in the deepest levels of Earth's scientific facilities. The Phoenix Protocol remained active, its terrible capabilities ready for deployment if needed. But she had also returned to her original love, theoretical physics aimed at creation rather than destruction. "Director," asked her assistant, "Dr. Yejin, are we really going to keep building weapons like Phoenix?" "My dear," said Dr. Moon Young as she worked on equations for faster-than-light communication, "we will build whatever humanity needs to protect the peace, but I hope we never need to use them again." She paused in her calculations and looked up at the young scientist. "The galaxy has learned what we are capable of when pushed to our limits. With luck, that knowledge will be enough to ensure we never reach those limits again." The galaxy settled into its new reality with surprising speed. Trade flourished under human protection. Scientific cooperation reached unprecedented levels. Wars between species became extinct as everyone understood the consequences of large-scale violence. Children grew up on 1,000 worlds knowing that genocide was impossible, not because beings had become more moral, but because humanity stood ready to respond to such crimes with absolute finality. Commander Dalthex often reflected on the transformation he had witnessed. The species he had once praised for their soft strength had become the galaxy's ultimate arbiters, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple demonstration that some lines could not be crossed without consequences. "Sir," asked his aide, "Lieutenant Corex, do you think humanity will ever return to their old ways? Will they ever go back to pure diplomacy?" Dalthex looked out at the memorial fleet that now orbited every major world. Human ships designed for peace but capable of unimaginable destruction. Vessels that existed to ensure that the horrors of New Eden would never happen again. They never changed, he said finally. "We simply learned what humanity becomes when you threaten what they love." The galaxy was more peaceful than it had ever been. More cooperative, more stable, more just, but it was a peace built on a foundation that everyone understood perfectly. Humanity had shown the universe that they preferred negotiation to warfare, understanding to violence, cooperation to conquest. They had also shown what happened to those who mistook those preferences for limitations. The lesson had been learned. The price had been paid. And in the space where the Keth homeworld had once existed, empty light still reminded the galaxy of humanity's capacity for both infinite mercy and terrible justice. Peace reigned among the stars, enforced not by fear alone, but by the certain knowledge that some guardians would always choose to protect the innocent,